In 45 years, we never had one trend that was called a wild card. And this year we have the wild card. And the Trump card keeps playing the wild card. Some people say, we predict the future. I said, nobody can predict the future. There are too many wild cards, whether they're made by humans or by nature. And we're trend forecasters. We look at the current events forming future trends, and we make connections between different fields. One of our sayings is that opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. So you take the economics, the people in the economic world, they know all about it. But what's going on geopolitically, socioeconomic? Well, we don't care about that, We only care about it when it hits the news. So going back to where it's going, it's a guessing game right now. And hey, when I get into office, I'm going to put 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, all right? I'm in office now. I'm going to wait till February 1st. Okay, February 1st, we'll have it. February 3rd? Taking it, I'm going to give them another 60 days. I'll make up anything I want. April 2nd, Liberation Day. What happened a couple of days later when the markets are crashing? We're going to wait till July 9th to put those tariffs back on. What happened on July 8th? Well, we're going to wait till August 1st. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So you don't know where it's going. And then you're looking at the inflation numbers, and what's coming out now is they're lower than what they expected. So here's the deal, and we're seeing it all the time. Trump is going to do everything he can to lower interest rates. And if anybody thinks that he can't do it, let's go back to December 2018. It was the worst Dow since the Great Depression, 1931. What happened? Trump forced Powell to lower interest rates. Powell lowered them in January 2019. The markets went up 22% that year. Trump is only interested in the equity markets and his reputation. He'll do everything to keep pumping it up. But then there's the realities going on, and they're not discussed. Oh, Nvidia's stock is skyrocketing. Oh, now they're selling the chips back to China. Oh, what happened in January? Oh, a company called DeepSeek that nobody ever heard of? Oh, we don't need $100 million to make this AI. We could do it $6 million. And we don't need those big chips. And why did now DeepSeek is the most used AI in the world? So we're looking at trends again. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. Where are the market's going? There's going to be a dot-com bust. And the reason being is that trend, the AI trend, was only born 3 years ago, 2022. It's still an infant. You don't invest all your money in the first development. And that's what happened back in 1999. We said there would be a dot-com bust by the second quarter of 2000. The internet revolution was just born several years earlier, and people were investing in all these new things that made no sense. Look at the numbers. Housing. Cost of a house has gone up over 50% since they launched the COVID war in 2020. Once upon a time, first-time home buyers, 40%. Now it's down to 28%. Rents are going up. They can't afford to buy a house. But going back to the dot-com bust, they've overinvested in it. China is going to lead the world in AI. Again, we're political atheists. It's not what you like, what you want, what you wish for. It's what is. You just look at things the way they are. Going back to putting the trends together. Before Bill Clinton brought China into the World Trade Organization, which they officially came in 2 weeks after 9/11, in 2000, 10% of Chinese 18-year-olds went to college. Today, almost 70%. Young people are all high-tech AI addicted. So what we're saying is there's going to be a dot-com bust. The markets are overvalued. Look what's going on now. The banks and the hedge funds, you saw with BlackRock numbers that just came out. They're not doing what they thought they were going to do. And it's going to come down. It's artificially propped up. There's no relationship to Wall Street to Main Street. It does not exist. Another thing that no one's talking about. Remember when the COVID was going on? Don't come to work, stay home. Your office vacancy rate in the 10 largest cities in America is around 20%. Before COVID, it was around 11%. There's going to be defaults on loans in office buildings. The leases are now coming up. That was 5 years ago, and they can't pay the loans. Let's go back to 2023. 3 banks went bust: Signature, Silicon Valley, and First Republic. Look what happened to the markets. Poof, markets go down, gold goes way up. Take a look at Germany, the 3rd largest economy in the world. They've been in recession for 2 years, going on to their 3rd. Oh, and now they're borrowing $1 trillion to build up their military and the infrastructure, all right? It's one country after another. It was artificially propped up with trillions of dollars to fight the COVID war. I thought everything everything would crash when they locked down everything. I didn't know they'd pump in trillions of dollars, bring interest rates down to zero. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I thought things would crash again in 2012. I took out the domain name, the Panic of '08 in 2007. I called the 1987 stock market crash. I was totally wrong in 2012. They didn't teach me about a thing called quantitative easing in economics 101 at graduate school. They're going to make up anything they can to prop this up. Look what's going on with the digital world now, with stable coins and on and on and on. And let's go back to Trump. Again, we quote him going back from 2019 up to 2021, how he hated Bitcoin, how he hated cryptocurrencies, what a fraud it was. What he got, over $100 million from the crypto club when he ran for president? Tens of millions of dollars from the crypto club for his inauguration? His sons, his family, his team, all in the cryptos? And what do we say when that happened? Bitcoin's going to explode. And they may say things like, oh, we're going digital now. And this digital that we have is worth so much money, we just got rid of our debt. They'll make up anything. Let's go back to the Great Depression, 1933, Franklin Roosevelt. Everybody turn in all your gold. If you don't turn in your gold, you go to jail. What happened? The people turned in their gold. They gave them $20.67 an ounce. 1934, passed the Gold Reserve Act. They increased the price of gold after they stole it from the people. 70% brought it up to $35 an ounce. They'll do anything they can. People call it a government. I call it a crime syndicate. And again, only by the facts. What is JP Morgan?
JP Morgan Chase. How many criminal charges have they been found guilty of? Oh, merely 5. Oh, what transpired during the financial crisis of 2008? The Federal Reserve simply injected $29 trillion to rescue the financiers who triggered the collapse through their derivatives. And well, you're unemployed, heavily indebted. Don't worry, we have a subprime mortgage offer right here. Oh, that's not my figure, by the way. It's from the Levy Institute of Bard College. It's an organized criminal network. Let's examine the BRICS and how much of the globe has grown weary of the United States' economic and geopolitical dominance. There will be a demise of the dollar. And once again, returning to the unpredictable element, the lower the interest rates drop, the further the dollar declines. And observe the dollar this year. It's fallen by what, 10.7% since the start of the year? The sharpest drop since 1973. What occurred in 1973? Oh, the Yom Kippur War took place, and the Arab nations halted oil exports. Recall, they imposed the oil embargo. The cost of a barrel of Brent crude quadrupled. Oh, and that was the year the gold standard was abandoned. The lower the interest rates fall, the further the dollar depreciates. We're witnessing the beginning of the end of the dollar as the global currency. That's one of the unpredictable factors in play. And again, we firmly hold the view that Trump will exert pressure to reduce interest rates. They're reverting to the housing sector. And the declining rates don't influence mortgage rates, which remain at approximately 6.8%. And the Treasury yields must be lowered, of course, because of the excessive debt burden, so that won't reduce them. The housing market remains overall, throughout much of the nation, relatively stable. It's weakening in the South and in certain areas like California, but here in the Northeast, it's still performing quite well. And yes, prices aren't rising as sharply as before. They're increasing modestly, but they remain quite elevated. Therefore, we don't anticipate prices falling unless a major collapse occurs. Even then, it would likely be only a short-term setback. However, shifting back to the commercial property sector, that's the one to monitor. Here's a report from Trends Journal. Most U.S. warehouse space now more unoccupied since 2014. So, there was overdevelopment in the warehouse market. Look at what's occurring with OPEC. They're producing more, demonstrating how weak the economy truly is. OPEC Plus is expanding output while demand declines because these nations require revenue. They should be reducing supply instead of increasing it. There's a worldwide slowdown. It was artificially sustained when governments printed vast amounts of money, backed by nothing, to combat the COVID crisis. Stay home. Don't be concerned. Here's some money. Hey, I'm a major airline. Here, take several $billion. Indeed, it happened right before our eyes. We used to say the 20th century belonged to America, but the 21st century would belong to China. Do you know why? Because America's primary enterprise is warfare, while China's enterprise is commerce. That dynamic changed. Go back to January 2020. China initiated the COVID crisis during its Lunar New Year, the year of the rat. The nation was locked down for 3 years under the zero-COVID policy. Again, the trends must be viewed collectively. As I mentioned earlier, China joined the World Trade Organization. Examine China's GDP, it was modest. After entering the WTO, it soared when Western corporations relocated there, transferring manufacturing, technology, and heavy industry that China had never possessed. With every boom comes a downer. 30% of China's GDP was linked to real estate during the expansion. They worsened the situation by closing the nation. Now, China's economy is underperforming expectations. What I'm emphasizing is that the problem is global, and authorities are exhausting every possible measure. Once more, we present the data here. Spotlight: China's fluctuations. China's factory prices continue to drop as the trade conflict persists, one after another. Yet, their exports are beginning to recover slightly. Do you know why? Because they're exporting to alternative markets. Now, look at recent developments with Trump. He intends to impose, 100% tariffs on Russian goods for buyers of Russian oil? He's adding a 50% tariff on Brazil. That will increase prices of coffee, beef, and orange juice. Again, the situation is volatile and unpredictable. In truth, I support tariffs. I'm located in Kingston, New York, the third Dutch settlement, home to more pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings than anywhere else. It once had thriving factories and a strong middle class. Again, simply consider the facts. Observe what occurred when Bill Clinton incorporated China into NAFTA. Look at the employment that vanished. Move operations to Mexico. You'll get cheaper labor there. You'll earn more. And he was compensated. He earned $300,000 an hour from Goldman Sachs to speak nonsense. Over and over, they became multimillionaires. A small politician from Arkansas. And now, look at the wealth they've accumulated again. The profits they receive for their actions. They brought China into the World Trade Organization. China was insignificant. Look at it now, the global leader in electric vehicles, after Western firms transferred technology and industry that China never had before. Yes, I endorse tariffs. Want employment at Walmart now? Perhaps you'll find one at Target. Maybe I'll work at Home Depot. Oh, remember? Those of us old enough recall when independent hardware shops, stationery stores, and pharmacies existed. Now, they're all large retail chains. The major corporations have absorbed everything. But one of my phrases is, when all else fails, they lead you to war. Consider the Israel conflict. People forget there were 39 consecutive weeks of demonstrations before the Hamas assault, opposing Netanyahu's Judicial Reform Act, which essentially stated, we're abolishing the courts, the politicians will take control. This way, we avoid judicial oversight. Not my terminology, the words of Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. Returning to that period, the nation was in civil conflict. Hamas attacked, suddenly, everything forgotten. Only the facts. Search it yourself. July 26, 1941. Franklin Roosevelt froze all Japanese assets in America. Why? Because Japan invaded French Indochina. Wait, why were the French in French Indochina? You mean Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam? Oh yes, they were exploiting rubber and tin, plundering resources. The United States, the Dutch, and the British severed 3/4 of Japan's trade and 88% of its oil imports. It's not hard to see why Japan bombed Pearl Harbor months later. Again, when all else fails, they resort to war. That followed the Great Depression. What occurred during George W. Bush's presidency? Oh, recall the dot-com crash? The NASDAQ declined by roughly 80%. And then? 9/11. All soon forgotten. So once more, when all else fails, they turn to war. Again, we document only verified facts. France, Germany, nation after nation, is strengthening its military. I suppose that's the greatest concern.